Welcome to the Skirted Professional Podcast, a place where women of all different walks of life come together to share their journeys and wisdom they've learned along the way. We are so excited that you're part of this community. We hope you always leave this space feeling encouraged, inspired, and a little less alone. The Skirted Professional is brought to you by C Saucy, a medical apparel company that specializes in modern scrub skirt sets for the working woman. Their goal is to give every woman the option to wear a skirt in their workplace without compromising the comfort, style, or functionality of their scrubs. You can check them out at csaucy.com. That's CSAUCY.com. All right, without further ado, let's get to today's episode. Hi, Jasmin. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks so much for being here today. I can't wait to get to talk to you.
Sure, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so you are local here to St. Louis as well. So you're a local business owner here. So can you start off by telling our guests just a little bit about you and what your life looks like right now?
Sure, of course. So I live in St. Louis right now, but I'm not originally from St. Louis. I'm actually from Massachusetts, around the Boston area. But like you mentioned, right now I live in St. Louis and own a business here. And the business that I own is 100 West Floral Design. And I do florals for weddings and events. So basically, that's a lot of what my life pertains about right now, besides going to church and things like that. That's kind of the main thing that I have going on at the moment. I also have a dog. His name is Boston. He's a miniature golden doodle. He's super cute. And of course, my husband, Grant. Those are kind of the main things about me that I have going on right now.
So cool. And you guys can follow Boston on Instagram if you want to. He's adorable.
He is. Thank you.
So can you tell us about like your career and educational path, what that looked like for you, what you did for school, and maybe what you plan to do, and then how it kind of turned out?
Sure. Yeah. So I went to Urshan College and I went for music, which I'm currently a music director right now as well. So I'm using that in that way. But once I was done with school and I decided to stay in St. Louis, I kept the job that I had had that I was working in during college, which was a nanny. And I was doing that when we had first got married and when I had started my music director position. And I was just trying to figure out what I really wanted to do career wise and all of that. I really was not too sure, but I was in a good position being a nanny with a flexible schedule and things like that to be able to figure it out. So I really just took some time while I was working with that family to kind of figure out what I thought that I wanted to do. And it really was kind of just by chance, or maybe, obviously the Lord's guidance, but I just had come upon like weddings and things like that. And somebody that I had like known as an acquaintance was working in weddings. And I just decided to email them one day and ask if I could come and help at any point if they ever needed it, so that I can kind of get a feel for how things were going and to see if that was something that I was interested in. And I was. I ended up doing it. And I worked with them for a while. And then there was a transitional period for them where they were deciding to sell their business and move on. And I wasn't going to be able to work with them anymore. And so I just was deciding what I was going to do there. And instead of looking for another place to work at, I just decided to start my own business. And that's what I did about, I think this is probably my fourth year. This is my fourth year because I started right around New Year's. And so I've just been doing that. So what I went to school for doesn't quite help me in the business that I have now, which is totally fine and it was expected when I made that choice. But recently I have been looking into a master's program, maybe in things that are maybe geared more towards business, just so that I can have a little bit, anything to help me, just because I thought that, that could be something that's useful. So I'm still thinking about that idea, but we'll see how that goes.
Sure. So have you always had a creative side? Is that something that you knew already appealed to you and that you enjoyed?
Yeah, I definitely think so. My grandma is a business owner, and so I definitely know I always had a feeling that I wanted to own my own business or find
Mm.
some way to work for myself and have flexibility, but I guess I just didn't know exactly how that was going to happen and where it was going to come from. And it definitely doesn't mean that it'll always come from this exact same way. I'm not, um, you know, I've always been creative and I love to do florals and stuff like that. And so I kind of knew that I was creative, but I don't think that really that was the stem of it. I think the stem of it really was wanting to have more of a flexible schedule and be
Mhm.
able to work for myself. And this was just the avenue that opened itself up. And that was just kind of right there in front of me. So I thought, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I was actually going to ask you about that because I think owning your own business, especially in a creative industry, has two parts, and one is the creative and one is the administrative, kind of business
Yeah,
savvy. And it doesn't seem like everyone is super gifted at both. And so, how do
sure.
you balance that? How do you find works for you as a creative
Sure.
entrepreneur?
I definitely think that maybe I don't think that I excel in one or the other. I think maybe I have an even split of both, and I'm not like perfect at either of those things. But I
Very
do
cool.
think that I have both of them because I definitely feel like if I needed to, I definitely could work in like an office environment, and that's like what my Enneagram is. It's a 3, so I know I know for sure that I could like thrive in that environment if I had to. But also I really do love being creative, so I think that I'm good on both ends, just at least enough to get me to go along. There's definitely things on both ends that I struggle with, and I'm just trying to develop both of those. Definitely, if there is something that I'm struggling with or I feel like I fall short on, I definitely have no problem to try to find help or some way to work on that area. One thing specifically is like taxes, my weakness.
Oh man.
if I if I did my own taxes, I probably would make a mistake that would land me like in prison by mistake or something. So when there's areas that I'm not good at, I'll just look for somebody that either you can, hire. I know people in business say like hire your weaknesses, and that's so super true. So if I've ever needed help on the creative side, because obviously I can't do all of the florals myself, I look for somebody that I feel like, is strong in that as well to help me,
Mhm.
that we can work good alongside each other, but then also on the business side too. Like I really do love doing a lot of the administrative stuff, but some of it I'm just not, I don't have that yet. So I'm just working on finding people that can help me or just hiring somebody to do it. I probably will never do my own taxes because I don't think you need to do that.
That's
So
fair.
I think just finding people to help you. If you feel like you're weak in something, nobody has it all. So I think that it's great to find people that can either help you or you could just hire them to do it if it's something that you're never going to be interested in learning to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's such an important message for all of us because there is this idea that we have to have it all together in whatever we're doing. We have to have all the answers, or we have to know exactly what we're doing before we dive in. And I know for
Oh, yeah.
me, it's been so incredible to have like colleagues or mentors or people that I can pick their brain on different things. And it's only made me so much stronger in my profession. And so I totally get
Sure,
what you're
yeah.
saying, to have people around you and not be scared to ask for that help.
Yeah. I don't think anybody has it all together, so and if they think they do, they probably don't and just don't know it, so
If you think you do, you are the only one fooled.
yeah, probably.
I love it. I think it's so important to have community. How have you built that network working from home, and working for yourself, um, with people that not only can help you, but just community that can support you and lift you up, or connections within your industry?
Sure. Well, definitely, since I had the opportunity to kind of work in the industry before I started my own business, some of
Mhm.
that worked in my favor with being able to carry over relationships, because even though you stop working at one place, you still have those relationships with people that you already met. So that was definitely worked in my favor, from people that kind of already knew who I was. And when I transitioned to having my own business, whenever they saw me again, they remembered me from before. But definitely, other than that, um, I've just had to meet new people and ask around, just not being from St. Louis, whether it's like a business thing or trying to find like a dentist. Sometimes I just ask somebody that I trust and I just say, like, where do you go to the dentist or where do you do your taxes or anything like that? And I've just trusted people that I either like admire or I trust their business decisions and stuff. That's actually how I found my CPA that does my taxes, since we just mentioned that. There's a photographer that I've worked with, and I just admire her and her business. And I just asked her one day, I was like, listen, I just started my business. I have no clue what I'm doing. I think I already owe money. Like, I don't even know. And she messaged me back and was like, can I just call you? And I was like, sure. And she called me and told me what I needed to do, like right away, to make sure that I didn't mess anything up. And she told me what she does, and she told me who she uses for her taxes. And I contacted that person and was like, hey, so and so recommended me. And, she just helped me. So I definitely think, reaching out to people, even if they're not within your community, just finding new people and asking for recommendations and stuff based off people that you trust and admire, definitely goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, just not being afraid to maybe step out and ask for help.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you don't, maybe right off the bat, know a ton of people or really know where to begin. Just start with what you already have and then just work your way from there.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned that you're married to your husband, Grant. Is he from the St.
Mhm.
Louis area?
No, he's actually from Colorado, like right outside of Denver. And he grew up there his entire life. And then once we got engaged, we both met at school. Whenever we came here for school, we've never left, because once we got married, we just stayed. So we've both been here as long as each other has, but he's not from here originally either. So, and that makes it, kind of going back to what we just talked about, that makes it a little bit more intense, because it's not like his family was here and mine wasn't, or something. Neither of us had anything or any people really that we were connected to, but besides the people we were from school or church and stuff. So we've just kind of had that community and just, built it from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say not having family or, just a network that you already know does make it even more challenging. And I could imagine the wedding industry is maybe even more about connections and relationships, since there are so many referrals from other vendors or things like that.
Sure.
Does that hold true for kind of
Yeah.
the St. Louis
Yeah,
area?
I definitely feel that way. I feel like the community is really good in St. Louis around the vendors. There's so many like
Mhm.
pages that you can be part of where, vendors will just ask each other for help or ask who's available or different things, which I'm not sure if other places have that, because it's the only one I've been a part of. But I've been really impressed by that. Also, people are just willing, even if you guys do the same thing, they're willing to help you. There's been times where I've needed things like rented, or when there was like shortages with flowers, I just asked if anybody had certain things that I was like desperately looking for that week, and people were
Yeah.
willing to give up some of the things that they had. So people are just kind, and I've just been really appreciative of that. But as far as referrals and things go, I definitely think that's important as well. If you work with the venue a lot or certain vendors and they get to know you and they like your work, then they definitely will refer you along with, I'm sure, other people that they appreciate as well to their clients, which is definitely super helpful. And I've also find that a lot of times the clients that I've had in times past will refer me to other people. I've definitely had lots of combinations where it's been like I'm working with one bride and one of her bridesmaids also has me booked too, because once the bride booked me, the bridesmaid was like, do you refer her? And then she definitely did. So then when I do that bridesmaid's wedding, the bride that I currently had in the past was in her wedding, and so I get to see like some people twice because they're in each other's
Yeah.
weddings, and that's happened quite a few times, and I think I have some coming up too. So that's definitely a big factor as well. But people just do that on their own. It's not really something that I've had to work at. It's just that if they're happy with you, chances are people will, love to refer you to people that they know.
Yeah. What an honor too that it wasn't like they picked you out of a magazine, but their friend trusted you with their
Yeah, I
wedding
thought
and
that
they
was so
loved it.
sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that
was
is
so
so
awesome.
cool.
I love when that happens.
So cool. So if you could pick a favorite part of your job and maybe a least favorite part of your job right now, what do you think those would be?
Um, I think my favorite part is definitely the flexibility for sure. Um, I definitely love the weddings and stuff, but like I had mentioned earlier, if it wasn't this avenue, I probably would have found a different avenue. Um, but I think it's definitely the flexibility and having to the choice of when you're going to have weddings and things like that.
Mm.
Because obviously, I love to own my own business and I love to work in this type of world. But there are other things that are priorities to me over this, like church and stuff like that, being part of my church and that community. So I love that I get to choose when I work and when I don't by deciding when I will take weddings. So usually my first thing that I do every year is put everything else on the calendar that I want to go to and be a part of and things that my church is doing, or just different things like that, or family things or vacations or something. And then I just work around that to fill in what I need to. And I definitely think that that is my absolute favorite part because that was my whole goal in all of this. I definitely think that my least favorite part is probably the stress of it, just because when you're dealing
Mm.
with people's weddings, it's like their biggest day and they want it to be
Yeah.
so perfect. And obviously, you do too. And I think that when you're the one that's in charge, you just really hold a lot of stress because you're wanting it. I've heard somebody say before that if you're nervous or you're stressed or whatever about a specific thing, it's because you care. And I definitely think that that's true. Like, I care so much about it getting done right and just being perfect that sometimes there's a stress that comes along with it that you just can't shake, even if everything's going well. Certain weeks, I'm just, even like 2 nights ago, I was laying in bed thinking about something that I have to put together for a wedding that is September 17th. So sometimes it's just how it goes. I think it's that stress because with other jobs, sometimes you can just go home at the end of the day and it's like the last thing on your mind. But sometimes owning your own business, since you're the one that it all falls on, it's never not like the first thing that you're thinking about.
Yeah, I can see how that would be just difficult not being able to turn it off and also knowing that you are a part of sometimes like the biggest moment of people's lives and they've, trusted you with that. How do you take care of yourself through the stress or make time to turn it all off and just be able to focus
Sure.
on self-care a little bit?
I definitely try my best to manage that stress or like anxiety or anything like that, by just reassuring myself that I think that it's just my personality a lot of the times that makes me overly cautious and want to make sure that everything is over the top good, because I just really want to make people happy and that's normal. And so I just remind myself, a lot of the, like, if I can take care of what's going on in my mind, that's really makes a lot of a difference.
Sure.
But I will just reassure myself, like, you've already had 150 weddings and not one of them has had a big disaster. Like, so what's the chance that this one's going to be a disaster or whatever it is that I need to do that way? But also being prepared for all of the things. If you're not like super prepared for something, sometimes that can turn into the reason why you're stressed because maybe deep down you know that there's some things that you could do. So if there's something that I have on my to-do list that I can get done to make myself feel like I'm in a better place, then I definitely do that. Other than that, I have a membership at Massage Lux. So I love to go once a month to get a massage, and that's definitely something that helps me, especially during the busy season. I'm just like counting down the days till I go back. And that definitely helps me as well as spending time with, family and friends and just not letting it consume me all the time. Not because I don't care or anything like that, but just because I know that I've done my part and that I don't need to let it overwhelm me and stress me out to the point where it's, unhealthy.
Yeah, I think that practice of being able to let it go, like you said, when you've done all that you can do is really a
Sure.
learned skill by all of us. It's not something that necessarily comes naturally. For some people, it may be, but for a lot of us, that's not very natural to be able to let something go, even if something went wrong, let it go if we've
Yeah,
done the best we
for
can.
sure. That's
Yeah.
definitely not normal for me. There's still some specific things that have happened, um, just in owning a business that really were not like that big of a deal. And it's like sometimes I'll be laying in bed and like still replay it. So that's just I think that that's something that I'm definitely working on, and I'm sure a lot of other people could too as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you have, in all the weddings that you've done, a favorite venue?
That is so hard. People ask me that a lot, and I really, I guess if I kind of base things off of different categories. So if it was based on what venue is my favorite because it's easiest, That's
Mm,
really, there's like two separate categories.
sure.
I love venues because they're beautiful, and then I love venues because I'm excited when I have to go to that one that day because I know they have like easy load in and I don't have to go up like seven different service elevators with thousands of dollars worth of florals. So, I guess I'd have to split them up. But I think that one of my favorites ever, is called Silver Oaks Chateau. It's in Pacific, Missouri, so it's a little ways. But I just really love it there because they have this outdoor fireplace area, and then they have like a woodsy area that you can get married like on the grass, and then they have the inside and it has a balcony. And I have told Grant before that I think if we got married in St. Louis, that might have been one of my first choices because it's not like overly classic, but it's not it's not like rustic by any means. So I feel like you can really do what you want there. So that's one of my favorites, but that one is a little bit of a drive. So some days when I have that one up and I'm like, oh goodness, I wish I was, going closer. So I do have favorites that are maybe more convenient in that way, but if it's based on beauty and things like that, it's definitely Silver Oaks for me.
Very cool. Do you enjoy getting to see all the different styles and um, the ways that venues present themselves and the flow of the weddings? Is that something that you
Yeah,
enjoy?
I definitely do. I follow, a lot of the other florists that are in St. Louis that I know of, and I love every single Saturday once I've done my work and I'm back home for like a little break that I have before we have to go back in the evening. I love going on Instagram and seeing like where everybody else is and what they're doing with those spaces, and that's one of my favorite parts of, wedding days is seeing what all of like my friends are doing too. So, I definitely love that. But I really also love when the style of somebody's wedding matches perfectly with the space. So some spaces are a little bit more fluid where you can kind of do what you want, like Silver Oaks, but some places, are meant to be fancy schmancy, and others are meant to be more like urban or modern or something like that. So I think above anything, I really love when the space matches the style and it just comes together all perfectly. That's really like what's my favorite.
Yeah, I could see how that would just be like the perfect match, seeing the perfect wedding
Yeah,
with the perfect venue.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
how have you kind of found your style? And when you're talking with brides or potential clients, how do you reconcile maybe what they want with your style, and make those two come together?
Sure. It's definitely different with different clients. Sometimes, you know, it's not always like a cut and dry type of situation. But what I have really tried to do, so that I don't really have to have any situations where it's like awkward or I just don't know if it's going to work out. What I've really tried to do is just be really open and portray like the style and the brand that we do and the types of weddings that we do, and just, post lots of pictures and have lots of previous weddings on our website. And everybody's creating a brand for themselves when they're putting anything out there that they have done, whether you think you are or not, you're like, or not whether you think you are or not, but whether you're intentional about it or not, you are, because you're just putting stuff out there and people are seeing like, oh, this is what they do. Um, so a lot of times that just kind of works its own self out with people being attracted or drawn to our business based on what they see. And so that's really great, that just kind of does that for you, because usually when you're looking for florals and stuff, you're going to go with a person who maybe you've seen something that they've done before that you've really liked, or that's really similar
Mhm.
to what you're looking for. So sometimes that kind of just works itself out in the industry that I'm in specifically, because it is like a product that people can see and they can look at past weddings. But there are some times where people kind of get through there and it's like I wonder if they've ever seen any pictures of anything I've ever done because I'm confused about what they want. But we do have several things that people do before we end up talking, me and them face to face or over the phone. We have them fill out different questionnaires. The first one is just like checking their date, and on that, they just fill out the date they're available or their wedding is, the venue that they have, the budget that they have, and I think they have the possibility of sending me like just a few photos that they feel like is like, the absolute like that draws together their style or something. So that's kind of the initial thing. And once they get past that, it's a more detailed questionnaire before we speak. And on this, it has a lot more details about what they're looking for, about their style, about where they're wanting florals to be used, about what flowers that they like, if there's something that they don't like how would they categorize their style. And then they're also able to send me a link to either their Pinterest board that they've put together, because a lot of people do that, or send me a lot more photos. And usually, based on that, I can really tell if it seems like it's going the right way and it's cohesive and it's somebody that would match with our brand. And then from there, that's when we will schedule a consultation with them, or not. But sometimes we do have to schedule consultations with people that I don't feel like are quite the best match, but you can't really just outright tell people that. So, sometimes we will try to kind of work with them anyways and see if we can sway them by being like, okay, I see what you have brought to the table, and obviously, you've seen, and I'll just be flat out and say, like, you've seen the work that we do, so I can't maybe do an exact replica of what you shared with me, but it could be something that's our style, and then I basically put the ball in their court by by saying something like, you get to decide if you trust us to be able to bring the vision that you have to life. And if you feel like it's not the best fit, then that's totally okay too. And I'm happy to refer you to other people. And usually that works. So a lot of times, clients and brides are really open to whatever it is that we bring to the table. And a lot of them will say, this is just my ideas and this is what I like, but I trust you and I've seen your work and I know that I like it. So you just tell me if something needs to be changed, and that's super amazing. And then other times, we have to kind of work a little bit more to be like, okay, well, I just want to make sure that maybe that's not exactly kind of something that we put out, and just kind of try to see a little bit more if they're maybe more flexible. And then if not, usually they can come to the determination themselves that they feel like it's not a right fit, 'cause we can definitely guide them that way. So I don't know if that answers the question, but hopefully it does, because it's very situational. So it's hard to just say black and white, um, but yeah.
I love the way that you approach that because instead of molding yourself to somebody's personal style completely, it sounds like you have a pretty strong sense of your style and what you like to put out, and then you put it out there to see if people appreciate it and want to be your client and feel like it matches their
Yeah.
style or the wedding they're going for.
Definitely. I feel like if you don't do that, then you might get stuck doing tons of weddings that you don't want to do because you're just
Yeah.
always doing what they like instead of what, but it's not only just about what I like, it's also just like what I'm good at. Sometimes, you just see something and it just doesn't speak to you. It just doesn't work. And you just know it doesn't work. And that's not the type of work that you do. And that's totally fine, because it's not always the perfect match for them or for me. And I don't want them to be disappointed either by having they're set, whether I think my ideas are better or their ideas are better, whatever it is. If it's not what they want, then I want to make sure that they get that, whether that's with me or with not. And there's enough weddings to go around that if it doesn't work out, something else will come up. So
Yeah, I love that. That taking the pressure off of having to land every single client, regardless of whether it fits you or not.
yeah,
And
definitely.
it sounds like as you're speaking that you're a pretty structured person as far as systems and the forms and everything else to kind of set yourself up for the best success, and maybe even scheduling wise taking all of the guesswork out of it as much as you can.
Yeah, I've definitely tried. And I feel like the more that you go on, the more that you learn. So the only reason why I'm probably like that way now is because maybe at one time it wasn't, or maybe I, took a wedding that I regretted that I did, or, just you realize what doesn't work and what does, and then you kind of have no choice but to figure out a way to really make it be more streamlined for you. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned earlier that you are a music minister. Can you tell us a little bit about that balance with your job and being self-employed and then being a minister at church too?
Sure, yeah. It's definitely a challenge sometimes. Obviously, with weddings, there is a busy season and a not busy season, at least in this area, because I actually, my first weddings of this year are this week, so I haven't had any so far in 2022. So, um, I've been really free and flexible during this beginning time of the year, which has been great. Obviously, there's other work things to do, but not having weddings on top of doing those things is just really amazing. But definitely during the busy season, there are times that it is really hard to balance the two. I only take weddings on Fridays and Saturdays. I don't always have them on Fridays and Saturdays, but I never take weddings that are on Sundays because obviously church is my priority. So that never becomes an issue. But just being busy and having a lot to do and having to stay up late on Saturdays the night before church because, I have to tear down from a wedding, definitely can be a challenge, but church has just always been a number one priority to me. So I just figure out a way to do both of it, both things. If I have something specific that needs to be done, because I am the music leader at the church, I've just tried to work it around. If we do have any special practices for the praise team or anything like that, it's on a Tuesday night, and typically I don't get my flowers till Wednesdays. So that works out great for me. If we have any choir practices or anything like that, it's on a Sundays, and Sundays are free for me. So, but, a lot of times on Sundays, I'm gone from my house for 9 hours, because I'm at church and, we have stuff before, stuff after, or just if you go out to eat with people or something, spending the whole day there. So I just, sometimes it's more of a challenge than others, definitely being like in a busier season. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult, but it's just never been an option for me to not get it done or for that not to be a priority to me. So I just know the good thing about weddings is that I know all about what I'm going to have coming up. So when I see busier months that are ahead, I just make sure that I have done everything that I need to do for my role in ministry and at the church. Obviously, I'm never going to be missing a service, but I mean, as far as like planning out the songs or planning extra practices or any additional things that I need to make, like the schedule or anything else like that, I'm able to see ahead what I have going on and also what's going on at the church and what's needed from me. So then I'm able to know that I need to get stuff done in advance so that I'm ready once that time comes, even if that's a super busy week for me. If I've already done all of that prep work or made the schedule or anything like that in advance, then I've been able to do it. But also, we have an amazing team at the church. So even though I'm the one that's in charge, I've got a team full of amazing people. So they're always willing to help and get things done too. So it's really not as hard as it may seem to juggle both because I have a great team on both sides.
Very cool. On kind of a similar note, how does your and Grant's relationship kind of work around your schedule with the weddings? Does he go and help you
Yeah,
sometimes, or do you guys kind
he
of see
does.
each other in passing?
Yeah, he definitely helps me, a million percent. Before I started my business, I obviously, he was a big part in that decision, and he was for it and wanted to support me, and so I was really excited about that. And he's helped me every step of the way. If there's anything that I need, he is willing to help me do it. I've actually had him help me put together some florals before, nothing important, like little things, because I've just been like, super busy, and I've just been like, well, come with me and work on some stuff with me and help me with that. But every single Saturday, he helps me with setting up and tearing down, which has been super helpful because he works full time as well. So I know that that's not always probably what he wants to do, but he's willing to do that. And I'm so very thankful for that. I've actually been trying for his request and mine as well to try to maybe only have him do like half of the weddings on the months that are super full with weddings, and maybe hire some other people to go with me to the wedding so that he can have some times off because I feel kind of bad that he has to help me so much on top of working his own job. But I always tell him, I'm like, you are my best worker because he knows, exactly how I like things, and he's so good at like picking up heavy stuff, and it's just really helpful to have him along. So he's definitely my favorite person to help me. But I'm working on not having him to have to help me as much as he does, but he definitely does. And he's willing to do it if I ever needed it. And so I'm super thankful for that. But yeah, most of our Saturdays, that's what it looks like. During the week, everything's pretty normal because I try to end, every work day at like 5 or 6, and usually that's possible. But Saturdays is really when it comes into play. And most Saturdays we're together anyways, just working. So, but I always treat him to a special lunch after we are finished setting up on a Saturday and he gets to choose. So that kind of helps motivate him too, because he'll be thinking like the whole week in advance about where I'm gonna buy him lunch at. So
I love that give and take. Me
yeah,
and my husband
so
will say that too.
it's
Like,
been
lunch
great.
is on me or dinner's on me tonight.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So looking back, I know that you went to a Bible college and then you went into your own career. And I know that there's a lot of people who go into Bible college who feel maybe pressure or like the unknown of what they're going to do after they
Sure.
graduate. Could you maybe like speak to them and just how that played out for you and any advice that you would give them in that season?
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely something that's scary because there are a lot of unknowns. I've also known people that have thought they had this, elaborate plan that they came up with like their sophomore year, and then, time comes and they're halfway through their senior year and all of that changes. So even if you feel like you have a plan or not, anything really can change. So you're really never, I guess, secure in knowing that exactly what's going to happen. But I just feel like that's life. There's really like no way you can for sure always know what's going to happen. But I know that God honors, the time that we put into going to a place like that to, get some training and to further ourselves in ministry. And as long as you are always, being prayerful about your life and the direction that you're going and just really taking, cues from God about what you should do next, He really will just order and put everything like one step after the other what you need to do. And I just know firsthand for sure that that's definitely what He has done for me. Because when I was getting towards, I was in my senior year, and Grant and I weren't even really um, dating yet. And I just, it's your senior year, and sometimes people are freaking out like, am I going to go home or am I going to go somewhere? Am I going to be married or not, like what's going to happen for me, like I just have no idea, like what am I going to be, whatever. But I just was having a great time, went into my senior year thinking like whatever is supposed to happen will happen, and I know that the Lord is directing me. And He just, He did. I, started dating Grant, and that kind of fell into place, so that I had, that piece of the puzzle, like okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the right thing for me. And I prayed about it and knew that it was. So it was like, okay, well, now that we know that we are going to get married, then where are we going to go? And so we kind of weighed different options on where we would go, and ultimately had decided to stay in St. Louis right off the bat, thinking that that was probably the safest option, just to not, if you don't feel like you need to go somewhere specific, then maybe just stay where you are. And so we decided to do that. And we had gone to one church service at the church that we had gone to when we were in Urshan together, and it just did not feel right. And that the next day, my current pastor's wife texted me and was like, I hope it's okay, but I got your phone number from somebody. I've never met you, but I know that you, just got your degree in music and you're getting married and you decided to stay in St. Louis. And we're actually looking for a music director and, and just couples to be in our church. And we just think it would be really awesome if you wanted to come and be with us and try out and see what you think about the church, and what we, obviously, since I was going to be taking a position, like what we think about you in this position. And so we did that. And that worked out perfectly. Like we were there one service and we got in the car after, and I was like, this is it. Like, I know this is the right thing. I can just tell that it is. And we prayed about it, and it was, and it's been the best decision for us. And then, like I had mentioned earlier about finding what I was going to do career wise, I just really was trying to figure out and just follow what was in front of me. And then it opened up for me to be involved in weddings. And then it just opened up perfectly for me to start my own business. And just, if you're prayerful every day in your life and you know that you're in right standing with God, He's going to direct you. And it's like, you don't see the big picture at first, but you just see one step and then you take it, and then you wait until you have to make another big decision. And then, you see what the next step is, and then you take it. And then when you look back, you realize, that He really was putting everything together for you. And it's just amazing how that works out.
Wow, I love that. And it's so true that no one journey looks just like another person's journey. But if you're
For
just
sure.
walking in the doors that open, it does work out most times more perfectly than you could have planned for yourself. Like my 5-year plan
Yes,
was not nearly
definitely.
as good as the 5-year plan
Yeah, for
God had
sure.
for me.
Yeah, and sometimes you make that 5-year plan for yourself, and maybe you were right, and other times you weren't, and so, it could change anyway, so obviously it's good to do the best you can to try to plan with what you currently know, but just know that, God knows better ultimately, so if that's gotta change and it's not the right thing, then just follow where He's leading and, you'll be all set.
Yeah, so good. Well, thank you so much for giving us a glimpse into your life and sharing some of your wisdom and the experiences that you've had. To wrap up, I want to ask you a question that we ask everybody, and you can just give me kind of your knee-jerk reaction, whatever comes to mind, whether
Okay.
it's serious or not. What is
Okay, I'm
saving your
scared.
life right now?
Okay. I saw you put this on Instagram and I think Chloe said chai tea lattes and I was like, oh, me too. Always. Um, so I think chai tea lattes always because I have one every Friday. So it doesn't matter what my week looks like. Knowing that, Friday is the end and all I have to do is make it to then that really helps me.
Yeah. Do you have a
For
favorite?
sure.
Because I feel like they taste different everywhere you go.
Yeah, they do. Starbucks is my favorite. I know some people are like want to have like little fancy uh unique coffee shop experiences and that's all good and stuff. But when I get chais there, I'm like, oh, this is disgusting. So take me to Starbucks any day for the chai and I am there for it. It's my favorite.
Love it. I've just gotten my husband into chai because he's not a coffee drinker, so now he has something to order when we go to a coffee shop, and
Perfect.
he can
Yeah,
feel
that's how it
included.
started for me. That's how it started for me. I was like, I do not like coffee. So what am I gonna get here? And one day I was with somebody and they were like, try a chai, and my life has been changed.
Perfect. Well, if we all have chais on Fridays, then we're doing good.
Yes, I call it Friday Chai Day.
That's perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much. We so appreciate you being with
Thank
us
you. I
and speaking to us
appreciate you
today.
asking me. Of
Absolutely.
course. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks. Bye bye.